Right, welcome to Line Break Rugby. I'm Sav, your host, or otherwise known as Charlie, and I'm back. This is my first one back for a long time, but I'm not really going to be hosting, I'm just introing. We've got Adam with us, and we've got Sim, who's going to be her host. So Sim, do you want to introduce yourself as the host, and then probably just introduce Adam after that?
Yeah, hi guys, I'm Sim, I'm from England, but I'm the resident Super Rugby and Southern Hemisphere aficionado, and I'm ready to welcome our Southern overlords once again.
And I'm Adam, and I'll see how we go with this.
Adam's a growing fan of
Growing
Southern
fan,
Hemisphere
I'd say
rugby.
Sharks would be my team, I guess.
Sharks?
One of my friends from South Africa used to support them, so I've always kind of had a soft spot for them.
Was your friend by any chance a South African girl?
Sadly not. He was very definitely male.
So I had.
Did your friend look like Gianni
thing.
Duplessis?
Yeah, oh dear.
Right.
I had a weird thing last year where I thought to myself, wow, everyone was telling me that the Hurricanes were going to win. So yeah. I was back in the underdog. I was really into the Highlanders, and now looking back, being in 2016, I now look like a glory hunter because I was back in the Highlanders the whole time.
Yeah, exactly the same position.
But they are kind of the team because I didn't think they were actually going to win, and I'm a big fan of Sapawanga. So I really want him to do well this year, actually. So I'm going to back the Highlanders again.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised that a lot of people are backing the Highlanders because this is the thing with Sapawanga is last year, this time last year, everyone was looking. Nobody would have believed you if you said Sapawanga would play for the All Blacks against South Africa in South Africa.
Yeah, for
sure. It just wouldn't be believed, and he just took his game to such a new level that he's a different player now. He's looked at differently, and it just makes their team look different.
I love
the only thing behind it before was him being injured. So finally getting a full season behind him is probably the main reason for him getting the call up in my eyes, anyway.
Yeah, there is, I think, just a couple of issues, with him that still put him, as the third, well, maybe second or third choice starting All Black 10, but today isn't about the All Blacks. Today is about Super Rugby, and we've got a completely new format.
Yeah, so this is quite confusing.
It is. It's like a bit of a maze, but I've had a look through, I've worked it all out, and pretty sure I can explain it quite well now. So, as you all know, it's not Super 15 anymore because there's 3 new teams. And the way it's worked out is that there's going to keep the Australian and the New Zealand groups the same. So each one has 5 teams, the traditional established 5 teams in each one. And they've added the Japanese Wolves and they've added the Jaguares. And the way it's going to shake out is, they've also added the Southern Kings. You could probably see why I forgot about them a little bit later on. But I think a lot of people have criticised Sanzar for doing this, but I think it's a great idea. You had a great World Cup for Super Rugby teams and the Southern Hemisphere as a whole. And then on top of that, you can add a great team and expand Super Rugby into 2 continents, and then still have an extra team for the South Africans who, need all the help they can get in getting more players playing at the top level so they can have a more diverse pool of black players to call through when their quotas hit another level in 2019.
It's good for their depth, yeah. It's certainly useful for their depth. Although they need to start obviously paying, as you made the joke earlier, but it's good for their depth. They do need that extra team.
And the way it's going to shake out with those fixtures is, like I said earlier, every team plays 15 games, so you can't play everybody once. But what you will do, so the South African teams, they're split up. There's 3 in one group and 3 in another group, and they've each got either an Argentina team or the Japanese team in each one. And what they'll do in those groups is play each other home and away, so that's 6 games. And they'll also play 1 game against a group of New Zealand teams or Australian teams, so that's another 5 games.
Okay.
So add that to the 6 and it gives you up to 11. And then they'll also play 1 game each against the other pool of South African / other team. And that'll take you to your 15.
Okay.
And with the Australian and the New Zealand teams, what will happen is they'll play, it's slightly convoluted, they'll play home and away against 2 of the teams in their conference, but only 1 game against the other 2 teams in their conference. So, like, if you're the Crusaders, you might play the Highlanders and the Hurricanes home and away, but then you'd only play the Chiefs and the Blues home or away.
Oh, but so that's okay, interesting.
So you play basically 6 games in your conference. It is a bit convoluted.
They put random monkeys in a big run, and then when they come out with something that works, then they just stick with it. They don't care. They go.
Well, this is the thing, because a lot of people are saying, "Why do you add the Sunwolves or why do you add the Kings?" And the reason is because it doesn't work with 17 teams. And if it worked with 17 teams, they would have done. But the way that the format works, it only works if you have the 18 teams. So that's why I think that, adding the Argentinian teams, it's definitely something to go forward with. It's going to be a strong team, on paper at least. But then adding the Japanese team, it's a big market financially, and you've got to start somewhere, haven't you? So in that sense, it works out. But just going back to the New Zealand team, so in that example, say the Hurricanes, they'll play 2 against the Crusaders, 2 against the Highlanders, 1 against the Chiefs, and 1 against the Blues. Then they'll play 1 game against each of the 5 Australian teams.
Okay, yeah.
So that'd be 6 against New Zealand teams, 5 against the Australian teams, giving you 11. And then you'll play 1 pool of the South African teams once each, which will give you your 15.
So that's a hard run through, really.
Yeah, and this is one of the things with Super Rugby is the way it always falls out, and why I would never tip a New Zealand team to win the minor premiership is because traditionally their fixtures tend to be a little bit harder, and sometimes they do cannibalise themselves. Like the Crusaders will beat the Chiefs, and the Chiefs will beat the Hurricanes, and the Hurricanes will beat the Highlanders, and the next thing you know, everybody's won a game and lost a game.
But didn't that happen last year with one of the 4? One of the whatever having a really bad season, and everyone else was basically the top 3, top 4 teams.
Yeah, and the Blues just collapsed completely last year. I don't think that will happen as much this year.
Well, they've had a cracking preseason apparently, so I've watched a couple of them. Yeah.
The other thing with last year's tournament was by the end of the regular season, the Crusaders. There's an argument that they were the best team in Super Rugby by the end of the regular season, but because of the way the fixtures work out, and you have a tougher schedule, and they missed the playoffs. Yeah, which was. Well, and they looked like one of the teams that was most dangerous at the end, but they didn't make it, which, fair enough, that's the way it shakes sometimes.
Well, I think... And it was the Waratahs got to the playoffs as well, didn't it? It was
that's right,
Waratahs, the Highlanders, wasn't it?
Yeah, the Waratahs lost to the Highlanders in
that was the big
game before the final.
I would have said that was the upset that everyone was expecting it to be a Waratahs Hurricanes final.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
And the Highlanders managed to pull it out of the bag, which...
I remember that game because that was the one when Aaron Smith stole the ball, scored a try from the Waratahs defensive scrum, didn't he, on the 5-metre scrum?
He went round to the right and just...
and he just intercepted the ball and just took it away, and it was brilliant. It was a great game, that one. It was brilliant to watch.
Yeah.
Like a lot of the Highlanders games last year, actually.
Oh, no. So, how many people go through to the playoffs?
This is the other thing that's different this year. Is I don't know how many of you are NFL fans, but before Super Rugby used to follow a similar format where the first and the second seed, so whoever finished the top 2 in the table, they would get buys for the first round.
Right.
Okay. But there are no buys anymore. So there's going to be 8 teams who make the.
So it's like quarterfinals straight away.
Yeah, that's it. Basically, quarterfinal stage. And the way it's going to work is every team who finishes top of their conference. So African Conference 1, African Conference 2. The winners of those 2 will go through to the playoffs.
Okay.
The winners of the Australian Conference will go through to the playoffs, and the winners of the New Zealand conference will also go through to the playoffs. So that's 4 of your playoff teams.
Right.
And the way that you get the other 4 is whichever is the better second place finishing team out of the South African teams, they'll go through to the playoffs. So that gives you 1 extra team. And the other 3 playoff teams come from the Australasian group. So whichever are the 3 highest teams in terms of wins and points in that group, they'll also go through to the playoffs. So you'll have 5 teams from the Australasian group go through and 3 teams from the African Conference.
So, okay. Should we have a... because I was just thinking, all this talk about the technical stuff, I kind of want to get to the opinions and the stuff that's going to get people chatting and annoyed at us.
This is what I've been waiting for so long.
This is I kind of want some predictions about teams to do well, players to do well, and some up and coming ideas for fantasy rugby that I could get the drop on if I was to stick in
yeah, it's going to be very interesting because I think, like I said earlier, because of the way the schedule works out and everybody not playing everybody, it makes the fixtures have a massive influence. And some teams have got much harder fixtures than others. I mean, like one of the teams that's got relatively easier fixtures are the Brumbies. Mm-hmm. And now the Brumbies, I think, are probably the favourites to win the Australasian conference. And with the fixtures they've got, I think they'll be there or thereabouts, challenging for the top spot overall.
Okay, so that I saw on the bet spread or whatever, I can't remember what you're calling it.
The Super Rugby Matrix, I think I want to call it.
Super Rugby Matrix. Okay,
yeah.
Because we are dedicated behind the scenes and we've got a nice Excel spreadsheet that Sim's been working on. Essentially, the Brumbies, they're 10.5. Is that 10.5 wins? You reckon they'll get 10,
I mean, if we look
wins?
at that's right. If we look at the over-unders, and this is one of the things that we were looking at, just to give all the degenerate gamblers in the world some tips, what they can go for. And so the Brumbies are being predicted by the bookmakers, really, the highest number of wins, which is the over-unders 10.5. And out of 15 games, I mean, you'd have to predict them to win 11 or more to get a return on your money. But just looking at their fixtures, they've got quite a few easy games. I mean, I think they've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games against teams that I would say are some of the worst in Super Rugby. And I'm talking about teams like the Sunwolves, the Kings, the Reds.
Just really not. It's not a high level considering. Yeah. I mean, the Reds are having their own problems at the moment. I don't think there's very many optimistic Reds fans out there.
No. It's going to be. I think this is the season for the Brumbies. If they don't do it this year, then I think they're going to have to put it away for a few years because it looks like Pocock's going to go, and then I think there's going to be an exodus. And I think that you're going to see probably. I mean, Tamua's definitely going at the end of this year, isn't he? So you lose your 10, you lose your 7, two of your best players.
He's definitely going, is he?
I think he has signed for Leicester, hasn't he already?
3 years.
Okay. There you go.
Yeah, so he's definitely gone. I mean, what do you guys think of the Brumbies? 10.5. It's a big call. Are you going under or over?
I'm going under. I think they'll choke. And I don't think they were a bad team, but I just think that's a lot of wins.
It is. I agree completely. Yeah. I mean,
it's hard for a team to get them. I mean, we might come back in a year's time and go, we were ridiculous. How could we predict that as an under? But I just can't see them. Is Spate still running around for them?
Yeah, I think Henry Spate is, and that's going to be one of the interesting things about their team. Because last year, Henry Spate, I mean, over the last couple of years ago even, Australia was looking at Henry Spate and thinking he's our 11 for the World Cup.
Yeah.
And he's going to be our 11 for a long time. And it never really happened.
Yeah,
but he is a very good player. He's very talented. So it's going to be interesting to see how he adapts this year, whether he can get back to that level of a couple of years ago where, he was breaking tackles, making long try-scoring runs down the left. And then I think he's moved over to 14 recently as well. But he's a very dangerous player. It'll be interesting to see how he goes.
Yeah. Sorry, I've just quickly on the visuals. If you're listening on or watching on YouTube, I've just put the conference system up, so it's actually a visual aid for you. You can just look through that. So
that's some top service.
That should be quite useful. So the Brumbies, we're going under just because 10.5 games or whatever. You can't.
Yeah, and just looking at that matrix again, I think. They do have a couple of games against teams that I think are quite good. So I mean, they've got 1, 2, 3 games against teams who are quite good. 4 games against teams who I think are in the very best in Super Rugby. And I mean, they could easily lose all 4 of those. Yeah. And if they lose all 4, then they can only win 11, and it only takes 1 loss in another game. And you're under, so under might be a good pick for that.
I think if we're looking again, and I know this is obviously a preemptive thing, but we kind of need to point out the Jaguars team.
They're one of a clutch of 9.5s along with the Stormers, the Hurricanes, the Chiefs, and the Highlanders. So it's quite exalted company to be in. Yeah, they're in with
the big. They've been put in with the big boys in my eyes, and without them seeing, I mean, after the first game we'll know, but it looks. I think that'll be a hard push for them. I don't know. I'm not sure.
It will be, but if you look amongst their squad, a lot of those players, I mean, while it is going to be their first Jaguars game a lot of them have played together a lot. I mean, like they are the Argentina national team in exile, really, aren't they?
Yeah, they are a very good side.
Very, very good team.
So, I mean, we'll see. But I think at maybe club level will be a bit different. And especially, they're in the African League, aren't they? Just looking. They
are. Yeah, so that's right. I mean,
they might have some easier. They might have a couple. I mean, you don't want to be too rude, but that does look like the easier league.
They are in Africa too. That's right. So they're in with the Sharks, the Lions, and the Kings.
Yeah, which
so I think they'll beat the Kings twice.
Yeah,
and I'd back them to beat the Lions probably twice as well. So I'd give them 4 wins just like that.
Just as an explanation to people who don't follow Super Rugby massively, the new Argentina team, one of the new quotas for the national team is that you have to play for the Super Rugby team. So a lot of the international stars from the World Cup, where they got to the semi-final, have gone back. I mean, looking at their starting team, I think there's about 9 or 10 of them that started the semi-final against Australia.
That's right. I mean, like, you've got Ramiro Herrera, and we've got both of the Argentine hookers. We've got Lavanini in there. We've got Peto.
Creevy's in my team. You know, they're. I'm looking at that, and I'm just thinking it's a really smart move by Argentina to go. You have to play for this side, or you won't get in the national squad. Because
it could have massively backfired.
It could have, but I tell you, they have obviously put a lot of work in, a lot of schmoozing or whatever to get these boys back. So it's obviously going to.
If you look at their squad, the only guys that you can really notice that aren't there is Ayerza, Lobe.
Yeah.
And Imhoff, I think. I mean, just looking at first glance.
You've got Bosch as well, but there's a few of them that are quite Asian.
Yeah. I think Bosch is moving on, isn't he?
Bosch is Saris, he's staying there.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you think about it, they've got Juan Martin Hernandez and they've got Nicolas Sanchez. I mean, that's pretty good, isn't it?
I'm surprised at Imhoff, but I mean, that's his cool.
He could go back after the season, but
yeah.
Moving at the moment, he's signed down to a contract or something. But I mean, he's doing well with Racing, so.
And the other thing is, if Imhoff stays there for a season, it gives a fantastic chance to Montero to come back from another terrible knee injury. I mean, he's a real talent. He can run down like the shortest space and make you 50, 60 meters. He's a great player.
I don't want to bring everything to top 14, but who's I've forgotten his name now. Strettle. Who's Strettle playing for?
Clermont.
He's Clermont. Okay, so I thought he was on the other wing to Imhoff, and I thought that would be 2 absolutely ridiculous wingers to have. But no, obviously not. Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the Jaguars, I mean, what do we think? Over under 9.5, it's a high number.
I think I want them to get it.
They're very big unknown. Like they do, when you look on paper, it's a very strong team, and it's absolutely loaded with international stars. But so are half of the Super 18 teams now.
Yeah. And
I tell you what, I'm worried about consistency. I'm worried about with the week in out aspect sort of thing. So they might have some absolutely amazing games, but I'm not 100% that there'll be a week in week out team like a consistent team. They might be absolutely amazing. I'm obviously talking without having seen them, but
they're really middle of the pack fixtures wise. By the way, guys, I think they've got 9 teams who have got harder fixtures and 7 teams who have got easier fixtures. So it's real middle of the pack bunch of games for them, but it'll be interesting to see how they go because the travel will affect them a lot because they'll have to travel distances for every away game.
Yeah,
which I know they'll bunch them up together, but it gives a different feel to your season to everybody else's, doesn't it?
Yeah. That is true. Especially, I mean, you're in the Australasian conference. New Zealand, Australia. That's not as far a trip as the African. Jaguars and the Sunwolves, you know, that's right. A proper track.
I mean, can you imagine Argentina playing the Sunwolves in Japan?
Yeah, I mean that. Yeah, I know. Yeah, but that's the way they've set it up. That's the way it has to be. So
that's right. Yeah.
So with the Brumbies, we've done the Brumbies and Jaguars.
Yeah, that's right.
Probably talk about the Highlanders. Like we've touched on them briefly.
Let's go they
were the defending champions.
Yeah, I've got a lot of them in my Super Rugby team.
They're the defending champions. They've also got the second hardest slate of fixtures this season, so it's a real gauntlet. And I mean, they've lost the Barracuda for the year, which it's horrific because I mean he's such a good player for them. They've there. Last year he was the glue that held the team together, and he was great against the Waratahs in the semi-final, effectively.
Yeah.
And he gives a big, he's one of those underrated guys who you'll only see what he brings when he's not there. So it's going to be interesting to see how they replace him. I mean, they've got a couple of good young other centres, but they're very different.
Yeah. No, you're 100% correct, and there'll be a hard gap to fill. But they really do have a lot of good players. I don't know. And I think if Sapawanga gets in the rhythm that he was in last year, there'll be a hard. And he's gonna be fresh. Remember, there's no Super Rugby. He's had a long off season to get his head together and to get training and to really want to prove himself this year. I think they're gonna come out firing.
And the other thing I want to talk about with those guys is they've kept their forward pack together. You know that unheralded forward pack that had no All Blacks in it, and it held its own against everybody. I mean, they've lost Nasi Manu, who was their captain, but I think they've replaced him with a better player. They've got Liam Squire from the Chiefs. Squire's had his injury problems over the last couple of years, but he's a real player. I mean, you can tell every time you see him play that he's got a lot to him. And I think if you gave me the option of having Liam Squire and Nasi Manu, I know which one I'd take. And I'd be waving Nasi Manu off to Edinburgh like that. But they've kept the forward pack together otherwise, and they've reinforced with Luke Whitelock as well, so it gives them a little bit more depth in the back row too.
Yeah. I'm looking. I mean, just looking at that back line. I mean, for a start, you've got Tanaka at scrum half, clearly starting over Aaron Smith. But you actually look at it. You've Aaron Smith, Sapawanga, Ben Smith at the back, Naholo on one of the wings.
Patrick Osborne isn't bad at all, by the way.
Yeah.
Patrick Osborne is
and
right up there.
And I mean Fekitoa, it's that is it's a strong back line. There's not many out there, and especially with Nonu having moved on. It's. Yeah.
I mean, there's an argument that's the best back line in the competition, really, other than maybe the Hurricanes.
I mean, yeah, the Hurricanes have lost. They lost Nonu. As the call just dropped.
I'm still on.
We've lost Sim. All right. I'm not sure why. Maybe he's had to mute himself for some reason. But if we look at do Delande and Creel play for the same team? That's my next question, because
Delande's out injured, I think.
Is he gone?
Yeah, he got injured in Japan. But Creel's in. I think he's in the starting lineup for this weekend.
For the Stormers. Delande's for the Stormers. Creel is Jesse Creel. Blue Bulls. He plays for the Bulls, so they're not in the same team. So there you go. So they won't be the best centre partnership. He's playing fullback for them probably anyway.
So Highlanders, do you think they'll be able to defend their crown, or do you think another team will go?
I really want them to. We've got them predicted as coming third on this, and I mean maybe a third, yeah. But I think they can do it again. I don't know. We'll have to ask Sim when he gets back in. However, he's going to get back in. Whether anyone's actually done a back-to-back and defended the title, because I'm not sure anyone has. Maybe they have.
Crusaders must have done that back in the day.
They did used to be the powerhouse, didn't they?
I don't think they will. I think they've got a tough run. After they've got a tough run of games, and I think it'll be a lot harder than last year. They weren't an unknown last year, but I think a lot of teams will see them as the big game.
Yeah.
Right, should we have a chat about the runners-up last year then? The Hurricanes.
The Hurricanes, yeah, go for it. I've added Sim back in, so if he comes back, he comes back.
How do you think they'll do?
Well, we've got them here as 9.5. They're going to win 9.5 games. And again, they're going to get to that...
hi guys, I'm back.
I've got them back in. There we go. So we're just talking about the Hurricanes.
Moment of blind panic.
You messed up somehow.
Yeah, I think it's probably my phone. It's not the best link up, but
okay.
That's some professionalism for you. So
that is professionalism. So
we are running on a tight budget.
So we're talking about the best line, and the Highlanders now have the best line, and we're talking about it now we're going to compare it to the Hurricanes, essentially.
Yeah. Just before you do that, I just really want to say everybody to look out for Elliot Dixon again. I mean, he was one of the stars last year, and if he puts up anywhere near the performances that he did last year, I think All Black in waiting probably come the summer. So it's going to be one to watch.
You really?
It's a bold.
Yeah, I mean, he was as good as anybody last year. There's a couple of guys in the Hurricanes actually who are probably right up there with him. Performance-wise last year.
We're talking about Elliot Dixon, and we're talking about the guy whose carry was absolutely ridiculous. Like, he trucked it over the line.
With like 5 players hanging off his back.
He absolutely trucked it. That's the guy. All right, because I typed his name in, I recognised the face, and I was like, is that the guy that actually just completely trucked through? Because that was a ridiculous try. I was watching the replay of that.
It happened.
It was awesome. He was carrying people over the line with him. Yeah, that was a great try. If I can find a clip of that and put it up somehow.
It was in the playoffs, wasn't it? I think was it in the final, maybe?
It was.
It was either in the final or it was against the Waratahs.
So I'm just going to quickly. So if you guys want to talk about the Hurricanes quickly, because I know that we've just go for it.
Right, 9.5 wins with the Hurricanes. Oh, so did we go over or under on the Highlanders?
We didn't say. I don't know. I think they're a bit more of a known quantity this year. I'm not saying they were a surprise package last year, but
well,
I'm going to back them to win 10 games.
You're backing. You reckon
they've
over?
got a hard fixture, but they're very, very good.
Yeah, they're a good side, but all the Kiwi sides you could see possibly, but I don't know. I can see them losing to another. I can see them losing any of those Kiwi games.
Yeah, that's true. I think the reason that I'm going over is I look at it and the way I tick it off is, everyone knows now their front row can hack it, so that's a tick.
Yeah.
The forward pack as a whole, that's another tick. 9 and 10, you've got that. Backline, you've got that. And I mean, when all those parts are ticking together, the Crusaders don't have a 9 and 10 at the moment. The Hurricanes backline with 12 and 13 gone, it's a bit questionable. The Blues a big question mark. And the Chiefs are the other team that I'm really backing. So those are the two teams that I think are the best in New Zealand this year, are the Chiefs and the Highlanders at the moment.
All right. Okay. I'd agree with that.
Now, the Hurricanes, guys. This is like, I keep flip-flopping on the Hurricanes. They're confusing the hell out of me. Do you guys want to start?
I'm honestly I'm a complete loss, to be honest with you. I'd have to have a look through their...
Well, they've lost quite a few players, haven't they? Like, big influential players.
Oh, yeah, they've lost. I mean, they've lost Ma Nonu, they've lost Conrad Smith. I mean, that's pretty big in itself.
That's the two biggest. But we've got to remember, and this is obviously it's a cliche and everything, but Nonu didn't particularly perform well in a club's level.
That was tradition. I think that traditionally that was true, but last season I think he was very good for the Hurricanes.
I think he was in the playoffs. I don't think he was actually amazing all year round. He was fine, but he wasn't amazing all year round. He does turn up for the big games, and that's what you can rely on him for. But he's not like. I mean, it's tradition to say that, and it is a cliche. But
it's the
lost
easy criticism to make, isn't it? Of like a great player who did it all the time in the past, and then it just perpetuates really.
Yeah. Exactly, and it's not always fair. But having lost it, I mean, you can't say it's a good thing that him and Conrad Smith have gone, because it's not. That's a big gap. That's 2 big gaps that you've now got to fill, which they can. But
with every disaster, there's it's an opportunity too. And I mean, you look at the rest of this team, and I mean, last season you could argue that the best performers for the Hurricanes were, I think, Milner Scudder, Bowden Barrett,
Scuds and Barrett,
Victor Vito, Blade Thompson and Brad Shields, maybe Ardy Surveyor as well.
Yeah.
And they've got all those guys.
Ardy Surveyor he's been on the 7 circuit as well, playing quite well. And Perinara, there's nothing wrong with Perinara either.
Perinara was, there was a big argument last year in New Zealand over whether Perinara should be perhaps edging Aaron Smith out for the number 9 shirt.
Yeah.
And that's the level of Perinara's performances last year.
I still think Aaron Smith is the best 9 in the world at the moment, but Perinara is a very good 9.
I mean, if you look at this team now, the one thing I will say about the Hurricanes is if their front row can hold up, which they should, they've got the fastest front row that I've ever seen.
Dane Coles, Franks, yeah.
I mean, they've got I think their starting lineup would be Reggie Goods, Dane Coles, and Jeff Tuamanga Allen. And Tuamanga Allen's probably the fastest prop in Super Rugby.
Really?
Reggie Goods is Reggie Goods is a South African prop who hasn't been capped, and I think he's eligible for New Zealand this year.
Ooh, poaching.
Oh, it's going to be.
He looks very South African. To be fair,
he does. He's got the long blonde hair.
Yeah, he looks South African.
He has been responsible for a leg break too, so he's a very South African prop. Okay. But yeah, he's been playing in Wellington since 2012.
Okay. So he's been there a while.
Sorry, since 2010.
Has he married a local girl? Yeah, career starts at 2010, Wellington College. Yeah, I can see that.
So, and you know, he's a very destructive player. He's very good in the loose, and nobody needs to be told about Dane Coles' quality in the loose.
Yeah.
So when you've got that, and I mean, I think the caveat with the forward pack is that Broadhurst at the moment, he's had a long-term concussion injury. He's been out since last year into the concussion protocol, and they're saying that he's getting better. But Jeremy Thrush has gone as well.
So I tell you what I struggle with this concussion, and I've talked about this in other podcasts, is the recovery from a concussion is, I don't know if it's even possible. They haven't actually proven to anyone that recovery from a concussion is possible, because reoccurring knocks to the head, that's just going to cause a worse thing, and nobody can disprove that. So no one can prove that you've come back. So I do struggle with that.
And I mean, that's the point, isn't it? The concussion protocol, just being out of that doesn't mean that that you've given an all clear. The symptoms could come back as well.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's scary, the fact that he's been having these symptoms for months now.
Yeah.
And this is a guy who's, he's in his physical prime. He's a specimen, and he's,
it's very worrying.
Completely, yeah.
Who's going to captain them this year?
It's going to be Victor Vito by the looks of things.
Okay.
It's his swan song season. And back row is a real area of strength for them as well. I mean, I think what's going to happen is the way it's going to shake down, because while Broadhurst's out, Abbott's going to start in the second row, and Blade Thompson is going to be moved from the back row into the lock position. He's a very versatile player. He can do that, no problem.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I look at the back row, and it looks like it's going to be Ardy Surveyor at 7, Victor Vito at 8, and Brad Shields at 6. That's a real good trio, I think.
Oh,
Who's your player to pick then? Who do you think will be like the up and coming this year from Hurricanes?
Well, it's really hard to look past Ardy Surveyor again. I mean, he's the obvious one, but everyone's thinking sevens. But I looked at the fixtures, and I don't think he misses a game, because of the way it's going to go. He's going to play the first sevens tournament of the year, and he's going to play the last one. And the last one is when the Hurricanes are on a bye.
Okay, so he'll be all right for that.
Yeah, I think he's going to play pretty much. He's going to be there for the whole season, I think.
Surely he has to train with the squad though. Like, he can't just let in straight away.
I think they are going to just let him just go straight in. Yeah, I mean, it's Ardy Surveyor, right? He's pretty good.
Quade Cooper got left out when he was he was training with the squad and didn't go straight in.
You got to remember Quade Cooper's Quade Cooper. He's probably a special circumstance in everything. Just on Ardy Surveyor, against the Brumbies in the playoffs last season for the Hurricanes, he outshone and dominated Pocock, and that wasn't just in the loose, it was over the ball as well. His speed just getting to the breakdown is phenomenal. I think if we can improve slightly on that.
His speed, agility and quickness are I mean, he's a sevens. He's actually really, really good. I've been watching him. He's been tearing the sevens up. So
there's a school of thought that he's the fastest Surveyor brother, and I'm not inclined to disagree with it.
Interesting. Well, so Julian's never been known for straight line speed. Really, I mean, he's been quick, but it's never been touted.
It's 10 point something seconds, isn't it? 11 seconds, 100 meters.
He's quick. Don't get me
what
wrong.
A slouch! What a slouch!
It's never been like the main thing of his game. It's always been.
Let's be real. He's no Dane Coles.
He hasn't got the 9.89 Dane Coles sprint. So.
But that is a theme in this team, is the speed. I mean, like we already spoke about their front row speed. If they've got Blade Thompson in that second row, and the loose trio that we spoke about, the speed there, speed at 9 with Paranara. I think he scored 9 tries last year, just running on the back of things. Barrett, probably the fastest 10 international that there is. And then you look,
oh my god!
And then
Barrett.
And then like the one player who I would call a slow winger in Milner Scudder.
Yeah, the slow fullback winger in Milner Scudder. So. What do we think? Are they? Well, you've obviously backed everyone else to get it, so 9.5 is a little bit high.
It is high, but the one thing that is here that they've got that no other team has is depth, and they've got depth. I mean, if you look at their fullback depth, they've got Milner Skudder can play there. You've got Jason Woodward, who, he's probably going to have another lost season because he's behind so many great players and he looked like a real star in the making. You've got Corey Jane who can play there. You've got James Marshall at 10 depth. You've got Bowden Barrett, Terry Black, who's, a young, great number 10 in the making, I think.
Yeah.
You've got James Marshall again. You've got Blues trio depth. And just one other guy, the backup 10 now, Tahuri Orangi, who's been touted as the new Sonny Bill Williams.
Oh, really?
Which is funny because he's
Jesus.
about 5'9" and weighs about 85 kilos.
Okay, so maybe not.
I think it's the style, the offloading.
The offload style, yeah.
Yeah, but there's a lot of depth, but it all depends for me on how that midfield works out. And I think this week they're going with Lamape and Vince Asso, which is a bit of a surprise because I thought they would have gone with one of the other guys, maybe Halaholo, and but that's the way it's shaken out, and it's going to be interesting. Maybe Pisaki, but...
So, you mentioned that certain players may be stood behind people and being understudies despite being a promising talent.
Yeah.
And obviously I don't want to tell Super Rugby, Southern Hemisphere Rugby, how they should build on player talent or anything, but there is something to be said just in terms of depth for the Aviva Premiership. This doesn't actually work for the top 14 or the Pro 12 or anything, but just the Aviva Premiership, the pure depth that we have in positions means that if you need to, for example, if we needed a 10 to come through, they could play for Sale, they could play for Saracens, they could play for Wasps, they could play for any of these teams and still get game time, game in, game out. I think it's quite a big problem in this franchise setup where Madigan's stuck behind Sexton for all these years and he's not getting game time. And I think that stars can be stifled in some respects. That's
true. I think what they do, though, especially with the New Zealand teams, is what tends to happen is they don't mind if a young player sitting behind somebody for a season, say. Yeah. Maybe Oteria Black can learn a lot from Bowden Barrett for this year. Yeah. And same with Tauri Rangi learning from, say, TJ Paranara this year. And then next year, if the Blues 9-10 partnership doesn't work out, which I think it might not work out, I wouldn't be surprised if the Blues come calling on Oteria Black or maybe Damien McKenzie from the Chiefs. Or maybe the Crusaders come calling when Ben Volavola just is Ben Volavola again.
Yeah. But my main thought was... I'm thinking of it now, and we'll probably start talking about it, but the Crusaders, they had that problem where they had Dan Carter and Slade at the same time.
Yeah.
And they were obviously they then became a 10-12.
Well, it's not really a problem for
it wasn't,
the Crusaders.
It wasn't a problem. It wasn't even a problem for the All Blacks because obviously if you got Dan Carter, you've got Dan Carter. It doesn't matter. But in reality, Slade could have had a long and illustrious career at being a one-club man somewhere. And
he did go to the Highlanders the year that the Highlanders were terrible. And they spent a lot of money and they built, on paper, a great team. He had Mar Nonu as his 12, funnily enough. Yeah. And I think if that had shaken out differently, he would have been, going forward, he still would have been there. And maybe would have had a better chance at taking that All Black jersey. But I think that's what happened is he went out, it didn't work out for him, and then he came back to somewhere that he knew. And, with Carter, the amount of injuries he had, they didn't really have them both together for a long period anyway.
Yeah, because Carter had been out for a while. But that was just...
I do take your point, though. It's a great point in that, some of these talents... Jason Woodward is one where I would definitely agree with you. I think Woodward needs to leave the Hurricanes ASAP. He was great at the Rebels, came back because he wanted to be an All Black, and it just seems like he's stuck now because Milner Skudder, and you can't argue with Milner Skudder, really, because...
he's the young upcomer of the year or whatever the award he got, so you can't fight that. He's a talent. Yeah. He's a talent. Right, should we talk about the Crusaders then?
Yeah, go for
the Chiefs. Just to continue down the 9.5s. I don't think we've got. Oh, the Chiefs have a 9.5 as well.
They do, yeah. The Chiefs. And the Chiefs are my tip to win the competition.
They're the hot tip. So invest if you've got a Super Rugby fantasy team. Invest in the Chiefs. That's what Sim's saying.
Not necessarily.
Wow, that's now, what you. That's what I
say
heard.
That is because I'm looking at the Chiefs, and while I see a great team, I don't see people who are going to be like, this guy's going to score all the points. I think a lot of the points are going to be shared out along the team.
Okay,
is that not a good thing?
It is, but when you pick your fancy team, we'll go into that later. But you're not restricted by price or anything, so you could pick Milner, Scudder, Naholo, and Savea, and then you could pick somebody like Barrow who's going to score tries, and you can pick, Perenara to go with them. And I think with the Chiefs, they've just got a really good, solid team structure. They've got contributors everywhere, and I think this is one of the teams again with a lot of depth too. And they're going to need that depth because Nepo Luala, who looked like he's going to be the cornerstone of the All Black scrum for the next decade, he's out for the season. And they've also lost a flanker. They've lost, I think it was Mitchell Karpik that they've lost for the season as well now.
Okay.
So early on they've been hit pretty.
Yeah, they have, but
badly.
they have got one great blessing in return from injury, and Aaron Cruden's back. And he did look back as well in pre-season.
Yeah, no, I saw those games, and he's on top form. He's slicing through defences, which you don't always see from Cruden, but he was slicing through defences really well.
Yeah, and I mean, if you look at Cruden's game, it's different to a lot of Tens in that while he does play a lot of first receiver and he's brilliant with his kicking game and his passing, sometimes he'll just drift off into the 13 channel and he'll let somebody else play 10 for a couple of phases, and then all of a sudden he's up against, your 13 and your prop, and he's just show and go and he's through. And then the outside guys, they're all queuing up to finish, and I think that's one of his most dangerous things. If you're going to play against Aaron Cruden, you need to keep him in the 10 channel.
Okay. Yeah.
And I looking at that, I mean, the service is going to be great to him this year. He's got 3 All Black level 9s with him, and I mean, Augustine Pulu's going to be playing 7s all season, so it's really 2. But Kerbalo and Brad Webber is going to be a fascinating contest to see who's going to be the 9. I mean, Kerbalo's a more solid defensive kicking 9, and Brad Webber's like Aaron Smith light, so it's going to be interesting to see how that shakes out.
Okay. I'm just having a look at my fancy team. I'm rapidly trading out Reed and Delande.
Oh, is Delande injured? Is he?
Was he not out? Did he not break his? He broke something in Japan, I thought. Did something.
For God's sake! I thought he was going to score like 5 tries against the Sunwolves as well.
Yeah, this is why I'm making these transfers, because I've realised now it's a terrible idea.
Right, so that leads to my next question: who's playing the Kings this week?
Who's playing Sharks? Sharks are playing the Kings.
Okay,
Sharks.
so that's all.
I think I've got the entire Sharks backline for this weekend.
The Sharks and the Lions just spread.
Right.
Just one more tip on the Chiefs is they're 12, 13 and 15 are going to be ones to watch this year. Well, I'd say the whole backline actually. Charlie Nartai is going to be pushing for that number 12 All Black spot. He's a brilliant 12, brilliant 13, and when Cruden does go after the 13 channel, it'll be Charlie Nartai who's playing first receiver. And when it's not him, it'll be Damien McKenzie. And Damien McKenzie, I'm tipping him to be the star, the new up-and-coming star of the tournament, pushing for an all-black end-of-year tour spot.
But isn't Sonny Bill going to be starting at 12?
Sonny Bill's not going to play for the Chiefs all season.
Okay. Done.
Yeah, that's confirmed now at the moment.
Okay.
It looked like he was going to play some, but he's not going to play any Super Rugby this season. Ahead of him, though, we'll be playing Tamani Valu, and Tamani Valu is about as talented as they come when it comes to breaking the line. In 13, I mean, he rushes out of defence sometimes, and Nartai will have to help him there. But he's so good at breaking the line. And James Lowe as well. James Lowe's the magic player. He's going to be with the Fish, Fishy Ahi, on the other wing. And I think
CC won't be happy about name.
That. Well, this guy is the Fish. That guy's Dan Fish, right?
Yeah, Dan Fish. Yeah.
But James Lowe is as you'll see, he'll be my tip to be top try scorer in the tournament. I just think this team's going to score a lot of tries, and I think James Lowe's got that finishing capability as well. So watch out for the Chiefs this year.
All
right. Should we go on to the Stormers? Go for some South Africa
let's go South Africa.
Yeah, is that our last remaining 9.5 team?
I think that is, yeah.
Oh, by the way, for the Chiefs, I'm going over 9.5. It wouldn't surprise me if they win 12 or 13 games.
Oh, Christ, okay.
Bold, cool. Bold, very bold, cool. All right.
So now we're on to the Stormers, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well,
I'm just trying to find. I was trying to find them, as in to say, have they got, where are they in terms of fixture difficulty? The Stormers have the easiest slate of fixtures in all of Super Rugby.
All right, I'm putting Berger in then. Berger to score an absolute truckload.
whenever you look at like past years, they've finished top of the conference, but they've not really been that exciting.
Very good after that.
Think. Yeah, like they got beaten pretty heavily in the what was it? Whatever you call it, the round of 6 last time.
Whatever you call it.
No, that's right. In the qualifying round,
Yeah. No, you're right.
There you go. So I don't know. How do you think they'll do this year?
The problem, there's a complication with the Stormers, and the complication is that while they had a good 9-10 the Stormers' problem is that while they've got these easy fixtures, it doesn't help at the end of the day when you're going to be into the playoffs and looking down at a really good team when their last fixtures, I think their last 5 or 6 fixtures, are all against teams that I would rate as the worst in Super Rugby. And when you've got that, you bring down to the level of your competition, don't you? And their fly halves, I'm looking at it, and they've got Kurt Coleman. I mean, I don't think he's the best. And their 9-10 combination, it's just not as solid as other teams. So whereas they have got, Jesse Creel. So they have Jesse Creel, do they? They have Damien Delande and Wanda Young, and they have Cornel Hendricks. They've got some quality in their back line. And they've got a good forward pack too with Ebenezer and, like you said, Schalkberger. But I don't think that they're going to be there to hang around with the best teams in the playoffs. But I think they're going to win the South African Conference.
Also, with all the coaching changes that happened, because obviously Eddie Jones was meant to...
That's right, I completely forgot about that.
Yeah, so that's all been...
It's Robbie Fleck, yeah.
Yeah, Robbie Fleck.
He was the assistant last year, I think. So
yeah, he was the assistant coach last year. So I don't know if that'll have an impact on them this year, and I mean they did lose like Vermeulen and stuff as well
which is a huge loss, isn't it? I mean,
yeah,
Vermeulen, and it doesn't get as big as a loss for a team than him.
Yeah,
and I mean, there's just nothing to say for me that team's better than it was last year.
Yeah, I can understand that.
But again, like I say, easiest fixtures in Super Rugby by some margin. I mean, they're playing 15 games, and 8 of those 15 are against teams who I think are among the worst 6 in Super Rugby.
Ooh. Yeah.
So you think easy fixtures get through as soon as they get past that, then they get shown up? Do you think that's?
Yeah, that's right. I think up to their first bye, their fixtures are okay. After the bye, that's it. And I think the bye comes in week 5 or 6. Yeah, in week 6 they've got a bye. After that, they could even conceivably run the rest of the table.
Okay.
So I'm going over on them.
All
right. Should we have a look at the two? Like we've looked at the Jaguars, but have a look at the two teams just because they have got quite a lot of media attention and
the newbies.
Yeah, for very different reasons as well. So the Sunwolves.
I'll let you guys talk about the Kings, actually, because they've got a lot more in common with Northern Hemisphere amateurism than they have with the Southern Hemisphere Giants these days.
Well, we pride ourselves on having an amateur setup, and no, it's ridiculous. I don't actually know the reason why they're not getting paid. I'm pretty sure it's just because the club don't have any money, but it's a bizarre situation. We play in professional sport and not get paid.
I think it's a damning indictment of South African rugby, to be honest.
It's in a bit of a state.
Take a loan out, go to the billionaire and ask for some money.
Yeah.
Hopefully they'll be able to play this season, make some revenue and bring in the players, because I think one of the problems with them was that they just didn't have any revenue in the past, so they couldn't. But hopefully they'll be able to sell season tickets out now and
isn't their turnout to games in South Africa is all right. It's not that bad.
Yeah, it's pretty damn good.
It's the turnout in Australia that's the problem.
Yeah.
And, well, even New Zealand sometimes doesn't get a sellout.
That's
so
right,
who would you pick as a star player from the Southern Kings?
For the Kings?
Don't know Rush at once.
I don't know enough about them, if I'm honest with you.
I can honestly say, looking at those Kings players, I'm looking down. Have I ever seen any of these guys play before?
Let me have a look. I don't really recognise the names.
I think the kind of the silence kind of says
I think it kind of sums it up, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, I've seen Jurgen Visser play for last season for the Bulls. I've seen him. He's not very
Oh, his
good.
brother, the other Visser, Tim. He's
Is that his brother? Really?
no, no, no,
I was
no,
going to say.
no.
They've signed a prop from Montpellier.
They're all South African. That's what I'm seeing here.
Yeah,
The main thing I'm seeing on the wiki
they're
is
very South African.
very
I mean,
South
we've got a
African.
player called Philippe Duprier, and that's about as South African as it gets.
JP
There's
Duplessis,
a Shulk Ferreira here. I don't know how South African that is.
Jurgen Visser. Yeah, they're very
So we're predicting them as the whipping boys, then basically.
Yeah, I think they're going to be the
not
worst
gonna win a
team in
game.
Super Rugby.
not going to win a game.
Sorry, Kings fans, if there's any
I
of you
mean,
listening.
they've got the hardest fixtures in Super Rugby.
Oh,
Well,
God.
you've got them predicted at 3.5, and I think that's very
That's-
generous.
Oh no, that's the bookies have got that. I think,
Well, yeah.
and the funny thing is that they're meant to set those lines for an even amount of betting, but the betting's been so heavily on the under that you can only get 1.67 on the under 3.5 now. And I would still bet the hell out of the under because I think that they might win one game.
They did surprise people last
Two would
time,
be an
though.
overachievement for them.
They did surprise people last time. I think people thought they would do a lot worse than... They were quite strong at home. They were awful on the road, but they weren't as bad as people thought at
Do
home.
they have one of those ridiculously high altitude where the ball flies 10 miles? Because I often find South African teams
No,
at
they're on the
home-
coast. They're Port
Oh,
Elizabeth.
okay. I love it when South African 10s and 15s, like you get all these clips of them kicking it from miles away. And you just think,
60-metre bump.
yeah, and it's amazing, don't get me wrong, because it does mean they can obviously kick it for miles, but at that altitude, there's a lot of boys that could kick it pretty damn far.
And I'm just looking though, and what I'm seeing from their fixtures is that they've only got 2 fixtures against teams who I would rank in the bottom 6 in Super Rugby. So just so you know, the bottom 6 that I'm saying are, I've got
If you're being cruel.
the Kings,
Yeah,
the Sunwolves,
yeah, I can see
the
that.
Reds,
Rebels,
Rebels,
Cheetahs,
the Force, and the Cheetahs,
yeah.
So I mean, and they've only got 2 fixtures against teams in that.
But what happens when the Force get that force-filled defence back up?
Well, then the Kings aren't definitely going to win that game at all.
Yeah.
I don't think that the Force are going to be anything for anybody to worry about. I mean, that's why I'm projecting. I think the Force have got I've got the Force finishing 16th overall out of 18. So.
Oh, Christ. Oh, yeah, you do.
Should we talk about the...
But then you have the
Sunwolves?
Brumbies as number 1. Yeah, let's talk about the Sunwolves, because I know nothing about them either, really, even though I know they're going to play.
Well, they've only registered all their players very recently. I think it was within the last week that they finalised their squad.
Right, current
they didn't
squad.
They didn't have a coach till very recently as well.
That's right, yeah.
They weren't able to commit players. It's just all very last minute. I think if they'd been organised like the Argentinian team, on the complete other hand, they could have been a decent team. But I think because everything's been left so late...
Yeah.
I'm slightly surprised as well that they didn't make a real strong push for Tanaka.
To
I
come
thought
from
that-
the Highlanders.
Yeah, that's right. Make a
Yeah.
real push for him and make him captain. You've got a Super Rugby winner there
It's true.
to build your team around, but they haven't made that push.
So what I'm seeing from the wiki, just quickly having a look at it, is their front row is pretty much all Japanese. They've got 1 South Korean player. Hookers, all Japanese. Locks, they've got 4 out of 6 that are Japanese. But then you've got loose forwards, where we saw in the World Cup they had a mix and mash of arguably Southern Hemisphere Pacific Islander players in Japanese colours, which, fair enough, that's their residency, they live there, whatever. So they've only got 2 Japanese players in the loose forwards. But then you look at it and they're scrum halves, 4 scrum halves, every single one is a scrum half. 2 out of 3 fly halves, although PC, I reckon PC will start. Yeah. PC will start, but then basically the rest of their backs is a mismatch of players. They've got a smattering of Japanese players.
There's only so much you can do on short notice. Like, they were
The other
very,
thing
very
is-
slow off the mark with
Yeah.
like
And I
Gorobara
know
and
that some
things.
people were looking at them and thinking, oh, these guys might be like, maybe they'll spring a surprise or two like Japan did. But if you think about it this way, the Japanese team, their standout players, I think, were the number 8, which is, I think, what was his name, Mafu, the Tongan-born number 8.
Yeah.
Maffey, the one who went to
Yeah,
Bath.
Maffey, yeah, that's right. And then there was obviously Michael Leach. Now, Michael Leach is playing for the Chiefs. Maffey, I think, plays in France or England.
He plays for Bath.
Okay, and then we've got Tanaka, who's playing for the Highlanders. Goromaru's playing for the Reds. And so you're looking at it and you're thinking, none of those star players are there. So
yeah.
We signed Maffey recently. Like this is not. This was like about a month ago.
How many back rowers have Bath signed by the way?
We're trying to collect them all.
Well, they lost. They lost
them in the back three.
They lost Burgess, so they need to fill that back row hole.
Every other international 8 in the entire world. It's our global domination plan.
Yeah, well, you
Mike
can't have
Ford.
Waldrum. He's ours.
I heard Mike Ford's going to change his name to Tom Ford and just like start balling all the time now.
I don't understand that.
You need to get referencing your Tom Ford jokes.
Yeah, I need to know my Tom Ford jokes clearly.
So I'm going under on both of those two guys. I'm really sad.
What was Sunwolves? What are they predicted as?
2.5.
Their betting line is 2.5. Yeah,
they're not going to win.
2.5. That's even worse than the Kings.
Although the Sunwolves have the third easiest slate of fixtures.
So the King.
I think
this is the odd thing. Overall, the Kings are predicted to come 18th, even though they've got 3.5. But the Sunwolves are predicted to come 17th, and they've got 2.5. So I don't really understand how that's going to work.
I think the reason for that is sorry. You know the over under. They're not my predictions. I've taken them. They're the betting lines used by
the predictions
Sportsbet Australia. Yeah.
Is the overall yours then?
Yeah, the overall is my conference ladder where they're going to finish. Yeah,
okay.
The projected finish is mine as well, but not the over under.
I'm still surprised. I know you've put the Brumbies at 1, but I'd still be surprised if they get there.
I think it would be, but I think it would be unfair for me to do anything else. They've got the 5th easiest slate of fixtures, and they've got the one, I think, complete team in the Australian Conference. So, which I think is maybe it's not the easiest conference, but it's not the hardest either.
Okay. I'm going to try and maybe get a picture of this to put up so everyone knows what we're on about. See if that'll work.
Yeah, if you don't fit it all on, if you want to get the difficulty, and just hide all the midweek fixture columns. So
yeah, there are a lot of them, mate.
Yeah, you can just hide all those, and you can just get.
Oh, we just need the left-hand side, really.
Yeah, that's right. And I mean, I sorted them in order of difficulty of fixtures. If anybody's interested in having a look and disagreeing.
Yeah. So I think if we quickly talk about some South African, and actually we've talked about the Stormers and we talked about the Kings a bit. Let's talk about Australia and then wrap it up because we can't go too much over an hour.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So we covered the Brumbies earlier on.
Yeah.
Probably Waratahs is probably the next.
I think this is
team.
my opinion. We can talk about the Jaguars being slight dark horses because they're coming out of nowhere. But I actually think the Waratahs are the dark horses because nobody's really expecting that much from them.
Yeah, and you can see that I'm not expecting that much from them. They're actually one of my mid-ranked teams this year in terms of how good I think they are.
I feel like they had a good year last year, and I don't know if they've lost anyone who have injuries, but I'll be surprised if they have a bad season. I think they'll be okay.
The South African lad that went back to Sharks, what was his name? The one who came out with the homophobic slur. What's his name?
I don't know that one.
Oh, it's going to do my head in.
Okay.
Oh, Jack's Potgieter. Yeah. Potgieter. I think they've lost a few crucial players. I think, like you said, Potgieter, Sekope Kepu's gone as well. I think Stephen Hoyles has retired as well. I think Palu's left too.
Okay. So they have
and their game plan. I think. Yeah, I mean they've lost Adam Ashley Cooper too. And I think their game plan. And Noah Rivoro, yeah.
I didn't think AAC had given up. I thought he was going to do another 4 years and play in the World Cup.
He's using the eligibility clause.
Oh.
He's gone to Bordeaux.
Tequila and Noah Rivoro's gone as well. And I think a lot of their game plan over the last couple of years was get the big ball carriers to go over the grain line and then we can go wide. Yeah. And I think they've lost a lot of those big ball carriers now. Michael Checker's obviously gone too, so it's Daryl Gibson now, who's a good coach.
No more.
But I think there's going to be a drop off this year. I think it's going to be a down year before they can come back up, especially without Kepu. Who I think is one of he was a cornerstone in their scrum, and without him, it's not going to be quite the same.
Leading man. Okay, but I'm backing them to be my dark horses anyway.
They've got what, an 8.5, I think.
Yeah, they got an 8.5. I mean, you're predicting them to go under, but I think they could surprise some teams this year.
Okay, so who would you guys pick as the winners then, if you're doing it off the first weekend before the first weekend begins?
Of the competition?
Yeah, the whole competition.
I would say the Chiefs.
I'm backing the Highlanders, and I'm going to actually back them by saying that they will win it again. I think back to back. Why not?
I'm going to go with Hurricanes.
You're going Hurricanes. So we're
So
all
we're
back
going
in
for a New Zealand team, which is funny because the amount of New Zealanders leading New Zealand have retired or moved abroad, but they all still look very strong. I mean, I think any one of those three teams could win it.
It does say something about their second string. I know I talked about lack of depth perhaps being an issue, but they do have second string players that are amazing. There's no...
Yeah. Well, one of these teams will definitely not get out of the group as well.
Well, I think the way that I've shaked it out and the way that I've looked at it is I'm predicting playoff spots for the Highlanders, the Hurricanes, the Chiefs, the Waratahs and the Brumbies out of those 10 in the Australasian Conference. So I think it's gonna be a real dogfight there.
Right, I've got the outro music playing now. Oh, Super
But watch
Rugby.
out, guys! Watch out for the
go on.
Akira Ione. He's going to be brilliant this year.
Akira Ione. Okay. Oh yeah, I've seen a couple of clips of him actually already. Yeah.
His brother's not bad either. His brother's 18 years old. I think 1.90 m and probably about 103 kilos.
Seen the sevens?
And he can move like the wind. Yeah, he is. Yeah. He's also going to play Super Rugby as well.
I've been watching quite a bit of sevens recently, so.
I haven't. I need to get started on that.
It's
I
good
love playing
fun.
sevens.
I love the development of it as well, watching them.
And what's this? Is there going to be a Reddit rugby team now?
Oh yeah, I've joined up. I'm signed in.
I might
need to get on this. Oh, don't. You'll get hurt. You'll break a nail or something.
Yeah.
Mate, you don't understand. Like, every forward would hate me.
I'll play the opposition 10. I'd love to skin you on the outside.
Well, the thing is, I'm kind of like Pollard in the size-wise, so just don't let me catch you. I kind of feel like a South African in exile. Got that South African size.
Got the Southern Hemisphere love.
A lot of it, yeah. But
we're gonna sign out and say goodbye. So this has been Line Break Rugby. I'm gonna slightly turn up the outro music. There it is. Listen to that. Alright, I've been Sav. I haven't really been your host. I think Sim's been your host, really, but I've been Sav. And I'm signing off. I'll let the others say goodbye.
Yeah, just before I say goodbye, now that I feel like I'm a real Southern Hemisphere 10, maybe I'll sign for Toulon and become France's new 10. Hopefully we'll see you again, talk about more Super Rugby, and I'm out, yeah.
And see you guys later.
Bye, guys.